unreachable. Faith to fight the unbeatable. Faith to remove the unmovable. Faith that stands the invincible. Faith that can conquer anything. Faith to reach the unreachable. Faith to fight the unbeatable. Faith to remove the unmovable. Faith that stands the invincible. Faith that can conquer
Amen. That was Vanessa Bell Armstrong, an old classic entitled Faith That Conquers. Well, good morning. I am Asar, also known as Greg Stanton. I'm your facilitator for Serendipity Sunday. For those of you who are joining first time, welcome to Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living. I pray things are well with you as you rise into this moment in time, no matter what time it is, that you're capturing this presentation. For those of you on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. What only if there's something of value, if you believe that there's something you can get by coming here. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you want to make sure you don't miss when I go live, just hit that bell also. That will allow you to be notified. And for those of you who are in the Zoom room, in the sanctuary this morning, I want to say good morning to you. It is such a beautiful day here in the city of St. Louis, Missouri. I'm looking forward to it's been having just a great weekend as we move into the summer months. We are celebrating Stepaganza. For those of you who don't know, one of my pastimes, I can't say it's my favorite anymore. I've been doing it for such a long time, is I enjoy Chicago style stepping. And today, steppers from all over the country have converged on St. Louis, Missouri for Stepaganza. This is the 10th year, I believe, final year of this event. So, been enjoying that. Also, I want to just make a couple announcements this morning. As we move into our summer months, we will begin to alter some of the things we offer. One of the biggest offers that I will be hosting this summer for 8 weeks will be the I'm going to have a special webinar. No, it's not a webinar. It's actually a master course and a mastermind group all combined in one for those of you who want to learn how to operate the principles of the universe, particularly that you can be not a creator, because everything that is to be created has already been created by source. But because you're one with source, you learn how to manifest, how to bring it from the invisible to the invisible realm. There's a lot of people out there that's talking a talk, but they're not walking a walk. But I'm like this: show me something. If you say it works, show me how it's working in your life. Well, one of the things I want to do, not focusing on other people, but focusing on what this ministry is all about. It's about application. It's about taking the information that may be inspirational and taking it to application that you can have a transformational experience. So stay tuned as we send out an update as to all the different things that are going on here at Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living. If you're on the YouTube channel, you can always go up to the banner there and you can click on to find out more about what the ministry is all about. If you are part of the Oasis Spiritual Center, you can always go to the website, which is oasisspiritualcenter.com. Somebody can type that in there for me. oasisspiritualcenter.com. You can poke around and you can see how we get down. Well, we're going to get started this morning. I want to look here. I see we have quite a few people joining us this morning. Welcome aboard. Joyful rising to you all. Good to see you, Linda. Good to see you, Amir. Grand rising to you all. You also this morning. So right where we are, I know you just come out of the rest. But let's get present to where we are, what we're about to experience for the next 20 minutes of your life. So I would like everyone to look around, make sure you're in a safe space, and just take a deep breath in. Hold that breath. Now exhale through your mouth, all the way down to the bottom of the breath. Now together, let's take another deep breath in through our nostrils. Hold that breath, filling up your lungs, your diaphragm, allowing that breath to do what it's been designed to do, bring you present to right here, right now, living in this moment. Every cell, every system, every organ being rejuvenated, revitalized. Now exhale as you release. You release all toxins, all anxiety. You release that which no longer serves you. And then I want you to continue to breathe in and out at your own pace. Simply close your eyes as I take you into our introductory meditation as we move into our message. Nothing in our thought about Source or God should produce sadness or depression. Rather, it should do quite the reverse. Because our faith in and love of Source or God should give us such a confidence and such a sense of security that we should indeed be able to say, "Joy to the world, for the Lord has come." We must come to realize that God is not in some far off place, but instead that God, Source, divine intelligence, is inward, intimate, inward and intimate presence, closer to us than our very breath. Source is not, nor can ever be separated from you or us or we, but too often we separate ourselves from Source. I know, and I now affirm, that there is nothing in me that can doubt this presence or limit the power of God or its good in my life. There is nothing in me that can separate me from the love of Source, and I accept the joy of living in the very midst of it. The divine presence leads me on the pathway of peace this day. It directs my thoughts, my words, and my actions into constructive channels to self-expression. It writes and unites me with others in love, in kindness, and in consideration. So, today, we accept this action gratefully and realize that it brings us into an experience with everything that's necessary for our joy and happiness. So we affirm for others that which we accept for ourselves. And the scripture that supports that this morning is John chapter 16, verse 24. It says, ask and you shall receive, that your joy may be full. Ask so that you may receive, that your joy may be full. Well, this morning, we want to deal with the topic of faith works. Grow where you plant it. You're going to discover this morning that life's contrast helps you to identify your ability to overcome. Too many of us go through life waiting on perfect conditions, perfect circumstances, to the point that we miss living in the presence of right here, right now. Often I hear individuals say, "when I get," or they'll say, "if I had," or they'll say, "one day." All of those things are futuristic. Or they may say, "I remember when I used to, it used to be." And that's past tense. But the power of living is found in the present tense. It's found in the right here, right now of your life. Yes, faith works. You can grow where you plant it. You don't need perfect conditions, or you don't need a favorable circumstances to prosper. And when I say prosper, that means that your joy is full, whatever that means for you. Perfect health, perfect peace, perfect prosperity, perfect relationships. Perfect faith gives you the ability to create signs, wonders, and miracles. Yes, even in this day and age in which we live. So many talking heads out here. So many people espousing the power of the word. But there's no proof of the word. For that's why there's a falling away, not just from Christianity, but from all the major religions. People are tired of theory. People are tired of promises. People want to see the power. And those of us who speak the word, those of us who facilitate these spiritual conversations, we need to be able to show people something. And the first thing you should show them is your life. You are a living epistle. That is, individuals should be able to look at you and see that the word works. Why? Because you work the word. So this morning, I want to briefly talk to you about conditions. And they don't have to be favorable. Matter of fact, I want you to consider this. Conditions are activators. Conditions activate your faith. Conditions allow you to elevate your faith. Your faith should grow. The word says every man, every woman, every child, every person is given a measure of faith. That is, you have enough ability to do what you've been called to do. A bird has faith when it kicks its little bird out the nest and it falls to the ground. And as it falls to the ground, its faith is activated. Its gifting is activated by the condition of potential death. And the same thing with us. When situations show up in our lives, what do I call contrast? Contrast can be sickness, dis-ease. Contrast can be not enough. Contrast can be a lost job. Contrast can be a lost loved one. Contrast can be loneliness. Contrast can be a variety of things. Contrast is simply this: something that you're experiencing that is not favorable to you. And I say favorable because it doesn't appear to be favorable. But the word tells us that all things, not some things, work together for the good of those who love the Lord. Another word for that is law. And here's the essential piece, the B part of that verse that people leave off. All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to its purpose. So situations that jump off in your life, God does not drop sickness, disease on you. Those are things that you pull into your life. You may say, well, how can I possibly pull that into my life? Well, that's a whole nother conversation. What we need to do is take on responsibility for our lives, not projecting it onto a devil or a devilish entity or even projecting it onto God. You are the captain of your ship. The word says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The word says we have been given dominion. In Genesis chapter 1, first we were created and we were given an assignment. And then in Genesis chapter 2, we were formed and dropped into that form so we can actualize in this realm. And so we were given dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the face of the earth. We were also told that we were created a little less than angelic beings or spirit beings, meaning that when we take on the earth suit, we dummy down a little so we can, thrive in this environment that we are in. We are in this environment and we are perfectly We're fearfully made to thrive inside of this. Now, so I want a couple scriptures I want to remind you of before we go into the message. The first scripture I want to remind you of is Romans 12:2. It tells us quite clearly, and I said the us is those who are believers. It says, do not be conformed to this world. And now confirmation means don't think like this world, but be transformed by the renewing of what? Not your brain, but your mind. Once you do this, it goes on and says that you will be able to test and approve what is good. See, that's why we're spiritual scientists. We're called to test and approve what is good, pleasing, and the perfect will of God. See, the perfect will of God is that you prosper, that you be in good health, that you have dominion over, that you're able to create the world in which you can thrive. That's source's desire for you. Romans 12:2. Another one, 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 15:51. It tells us, behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a twinkling of an eye. I know we've been taught that scripture means the rapturing out of here. That's all about escapism. You didn't come here to escape here. You came here to experience, to thrive here. So at any moment, you can be caught up. That which is mysterious no longer is mysterious. It becomes your story. So I want to talk about this morning. Conditions. Imperfect conditions that puts a demand on you. And if you step inside of your ability, the propensity that you have to be more than a mere human being, then you can begin to exercise. Christ said, a greater work you shall do. I don't see greater works today, but I hear people espousing these things. It's not that greater works are not available to us. It's just that we've acquiesced or we've slipped into the human aspect of being. We depend on our medical doctors, and our hats off to medical doctors. We depend on Western science. We depend on others. But there was a day and age when we didn't have the medical technology. We didn't have the modern things of life. And we had to depend on the power that we had. Our intuitiveness, the ability to hear, to know. So this morning, I want you to consider that the contrast in your life is an activator. Now, Jesus was a master teacher. And so there was always a situation showing up that he was bumping up against that represented contrast. Not in his life, but their life. Now, there was an occasion where there was some contrast. The word says that in one of the scriptures that he hungered. As he was on the road to Jerusalem, he was on the Jericho road, I believe, and he hungered. And the word says that he saw over in the distance a fig tree. Now, he didn't see the fig tree for what it was at that time. He saw the fig tree for what it was supposed to be. See, we see a fig tree and we think it's about leaves. But the fig tree is not about leaves, but the leaves should tell us something about the tree, that it's supposed to bear fruit. And so if he hungered, he knew there was a tree that bared fruit. And so when you understand the ability you have to call those things that are not as though they were, you don't live in the construct of past, future, present. You live in the now. You know that if you speak it as if it is, so shall it be. But we speak so many things into the future. One day I will. You say that. When it happens, you say that. I can't wait. All of those are markers that show you that you're speaking into tomorrow and that your expectation is afar off. But you need to be able to bring your conversation into present tense. That's what I'm talking about. I'll give you an example. Here we see in that story, Jesus went to the tree, the fig tree. When he finally got there, he realized that the fig tree did not respond to the demand he had put on it, and as a result, he cursed it. And a few days later, they come back and it was dead. See, that's living in the supernatural. That's living with dominion. That's living with authority. So religion doesn't teach you that. Religion tells you that when you get somewhere else, you'll get what you need. But you need what you want right here, right now. When you get there, the word says, or tomorrow will take care of itself. So I want you to look here in Matthew chapter 14. You're familiar with this story. The story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. Now, there was a demand put on him. Let's go to the story. It says in Matthew chapter 14, verse 13 through 17. I'm going to go through 21. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by the boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus, those were believers. See, a lot of people are seekers. A lot of people are lookers. They're paying attention. They got itchy ears. They got wandering eyes. They want to see something. They want to hear something. But these people want to experience something. And that's the same thing with church. People show up on church on Sunday. They show up in the convenience of a virtual church, but they don't take the next step. So after he had spoken to the masses, he moved to another place. He inconvenienced them. And so many times people only want the convenient word. They won't even go as far as hitting the bell or subscribing or giving their information, because that's too much like someone asking more of you than you want to give. Why don't you want to do that? But here we see in this particular story, he had heard that the crowd was following. They were coming. And when Jesus landed, he saw a large crowd. He had compassion on them and he healed their sick. Now that's something we're talking about this month. I'm talking about manifestation. I'm talking about proof, evidence. When was the last time? I know people go through the motions. They say, I'll pray for you. Nothing happens. First of all, you don't pray for everyone. The word of God says, lay hands on no man suddenly. Because the very thing you're praying to change could be the very contrast that should be in their life at that time. We have to be very careful that we don't become people's saviors or saving points. Now, there's a time where you will be given an unction. You will be pressed by your intuitive nature to lay hands or to speak a word. Because sometimes it don't always require that you lay hands. The activating word could change the situation. And he says here that he healed their sick. We got a lot of sick people today that need healing. Not only physical healing, but they need mental healing. They need emotional healing. They need spiritual healing. In verse 15, it says, as the evening approached, the disciples mean those who were being trained, those who had the same mind, those who were in the same belief system. As the evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, this is a remote place. Some of you guys are feeling right now you're in a remote place. There's nothing here. Nobody can see you. Nobody can even know you exist, but you're right where you're supposed to be. And he says, this is a remote place and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food. Here was a contrast showing up not in Jesus' life, but his disciples' life. There was a lesson to be learned. And the lesson was that they had the ability to change the contrast. And sometimes we sure have a contrast in our lives and we automatically go to get a loan, or we automatically go to get a job. We automatically do that which we believe is the next best thing that is humanly possible. Now, I often tell you, when you don't know what to do, do the next practical thing. And that's why I live my life. If I'm not hearing from source, God, I will say to myself, what is the next practical thing? Now, part of the practical thing for me is always inclusive of my past experiences. When I prayed, did it work? Am I in the same situation where I could pray the same prayer or a similar prayer? So don't always take the next practical thing as a physical thing, but the next practical thing can be a spiritual thing. The next practical thing could be simply Peace, be still. Be still and know that I am. That's you being still, coming into alignment with the reality that you are. I am. Where source is, so are you. And if where you are, source is, then you have the ability to do what source does. So he says to them after they're saying, look, we got too many people out here. And we got some stuff, but we don't want to spend our stuff on them. Look what Jesus' reply in this story. It's a story, but it's teaching us something. They do not need to go away. How many of us send people away? How many churches send people away? How many churches send people to the local food pantry? How many people even send people off to the local nonprofit organization? I believe that we need nonprofit organizations. I don't believe that your church should be a nonprofit organization, meaning that it should be using the same principles of the world. The word says, if there's any sick amongst you, let them come to the elders. So if there's sick people, believers, they should be coming to the place of meeting, so they can have someone speak a word of power into their life. Someone to look. Sometimes before hands need to be laid on, a conversation need to be entered into. Maybe this person is suffering from the sickness or disease because of the lifestyle that they're living. And it does no good to lay hands on the sick and see them recover only for them to return to the life that they were living before. Come on, many individuals who are listening, looking on today, has already been healed. But you continue to do the same thing you've been doing, and you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. Science tells us that every one of our organs, even the major organ, our skin, sheds constantly. You're not in the same skin that you were in last week, 2 weeks ago, 15 years ago. But you still have the same blemish showing up in you. Because a lot of times the blemish that is showing up is because what is going on in your environment. The food you're eating, what you're subject to. And sometimes we have to get to the root, not just pull the fruit. Back to the story. In verse 16 he says, they do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. And that's what I'm beginning to say, not just to the preachers, not just to the teachers, but I'm saying to those who call themselves believers. The word says, these signs shall follow those who believe. See, this right here will shut down everybody. This will shut down the conscious community. This will shut down the cultural community. This will shut down the naysayers. When we begin to speak a word and the word changes situations. But we're not doing that because we have not been taught that. Because we don't know who we are. We don't know our design. We don't know what we have we don't know our capacities. We don't know what we have the propensity to do. He says, you feed them. You give them something to eat. I make it my business when I'm going to, let's say if I stop by a restaurant, a fast food restaurant, they have a 2-for-1 deal. I used to buy the 2 and the 2 for this one. But now I buy the 2 and I give one because I know when I see that I'm going to run into someone who I should feed. It's one thing sometimes to just pray for a person, but now pray and help them. So I will give the homeless person I see out, not in judgments, not because I feel they less than, but I believe it's my divine assignment. I give them that other burger. Here's something else I want you to do. From now on, when you are assisting people, ask them their name. Particularly when you're dealing with the homeless that you see often. Like you may have a particular homeless man or woman or kid you see on the same block all the time. Don't just give them something, but also ask them their names. Because you find a lot of these individuals who are homeless, it's been years since they've heard somebody call their names. Call their names. See, and we don't want to call their name because it makes it personal. So ask them their name. And you'd be surprised how they will light up because you're asking their name. You're not just giving them something that's important to them, but you are affirming to them that you're important to them also. I mean, to yourself. They're important to you. So here's what happened. Now let's deal with the contrast and let's deal with the reality. This is what we all come to in our lives. We always take an assessment. When contrast shows up, we begin to identify what the contrast is, how dark it is, how bleak it looks, what we're lacking. And that's okay. But don't get stuck there. Now, he says to them, you feed them. You give them something to eat. Look at their response. We have here only. Only is like but. It gets in the way. It limits. It defines. He says, they said, the disciples, we have here, right now, only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And it wasn't theirs. It was a little kid. The little kid who mom packed him a Happy Meal. Now, why would that little kid be eating so much food? Mom had an idea that perhaps he will need more on his journey than enough for himself. And that's what Source gives you, more than enough. When you have 5 loaves and 2 fishes, at least 1 loaf and at least 1 fish, or part of the fish, is for you. The rest of it is for your assignment. How many of us have been blessed tremendously and we think the overflow should just go into the bank? No, the overflow activates you to be the conduit through which Source operates in somebody else's life. Now, we have here only 5 loaves and bread and 2 fish. 5 plus 2 is 7. 5 represents you can move this thing. You could change this situation. The 2 represents you and divine source. He said, but the 7, 5 plus 2, 7, going to bring an end to this thing. 7 is a number of endings. And this morning, I believe that there is a conversation that I'm having with someone in your head. It's ending today. Look what he says. He says, Jesus tells them, bring them here to me. Come present. And he said, and he directed the people to sit down on the grass. First of all, people need to be taught. People need to be instructed. People need to be disciplined, discipled. He says, have them sit down. So he's taking command. He's bringing order. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish and looking up to heaven. Now, here's something that I want each of you all to begin to practice anytime. Not only do you eat your food, but when you have substance and you want it to multiply. Before you eat it, before you use it, you break off a portion and you bless it, and then you break it. Bless it, and then you break it. Before you purchase something, you bless it, and then you pay it. Why do you do this? Because you put on the law of supply goes into work. You never have a diminishing return. Whatever goes out comes back to me. I will always have more than enough. If I give out 5, I'm going to get 5 back somewhere. It's just moving things around. I was out yesterday with Cheryl, and we were out at the African Fest, and I ended up purchasing quite a few things. And then inside, I said, you kind of went over your budget. Then I stopped that conversation, and I said that what goes out comes back. I'm circulating. Not only was me buying from a vendor, inspiring a vendor, but it also was creating a condition. Well, what goes out have to come in. Stop holding on. Stop hoarding. Hoarding and holding is an example, or is showing you that you have a trust issue. Yes, it is. If you haven't worn it in 20 years, why are you holding on to it? When it's time to wear that thing, if you gave that thing away, there'll be something else that you can wear. Stop holding on. Stop hoarding things. So he says, bring them here, sit them down, taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, looking up to heaven, looking inward. That's where up inward, in his highest thought, looking up in his highest thought, he gave thanks. First you thank, don't just take inventory of what you have. You thank Source for what you have. Then he broke the loaves. Then he gave to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied. Now, some people just needed a morsel of bread. Some perhaps needed two pieces to be satisfied. Even though there was a set amount of people, don't necessarily mean that each person were given the same amount. They were given enough. And that's what you got to realize. Enough for you may be different than enough for someone else. I may require $10,000 a month to live the lifestyle that I'm accustomed to living. It may only take you $3,000 a month, an equivalent lifestyle that brings joy to you. Stop measuring yourself against others. Stop trying to keep up with the Joneses or the Infedicis or the Khameneis. Stop trying to keep up with others and keep up with yourself. They all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 baskets. 12 is the apostolic number. The disciples picked up 12 baskets full of broken pieces that were left over. That's the law of more than enough. It was activated. 5 loaves and 2 fishes were changed into enough to feed the masses with something left over. That tells you we are in a universe that is abundant. Even though individuals try to exploit the idea that there was lack. They say there's a lack of this so they can increase gas. But they got all of these reserves, then there's really no lack. But they project. See, you got to watch what people project on you. That you be comfortable with paying such high prices. That you become comfortable with the idea that there's a pandemic or the possibility. Guard your ear gates. Guard your eye gates. I don't really pay a lot of attention to how much gas is, because when I need gas, I put the demand on the universe and I always have enough to get gas. Sometimes I may not fill up my tank, but I got enough to get where I need to get to. See, I don't always have to have a full tank of gas. That's a trust issue. Here's the thing. I live daily. Source supplies my every need, my daily bread. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Enough was there to feed the masses. Faith works if you work it. Here's my final scripture for you today. James 2:26. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. Faith with no works is no faith at all. Faith works if you work it. Start using your faith for a headache. Start using your faith for a light bill. Start using your faith for the small things. And then you can exercise your faith for great things. You got to move into a level of transcendence. That is existing or experiencing beyond the normal physical level. The possibility of spiritual transcendence in this modern world is found inside of faith in action. What makes you different? Your faith makes you different. Not your religion, but your faith. The word works if you work the word. Let us close right where you are. Just close your eyes. I speak a word of power over those under the sound of my voice. Those who hear because they believe there was a word, so they came to the word. No matter what the situation or circumstance is in your life right here, right now, you have faith enough to change it. I speak that God's source's highest and greatest good begin to manifest in your life, and that you have ears to hear the next step that you're supposed to take, and that you can find peace, and that you can be anxiety free, knowing that source has heard. For the word says that source desires to do exceedingly abundantly above anything that you could ask or think. All you have to do is be available to be used, to follow the instructions, sit, be still, and then take action. And so it is. Amen. Well, I pray something was said to each of you this morning that has been uplifting and encouraging. Thank you, Marcia, for saying that's a great word. For years, I've been praying and believing for a situation to change. I'm ready to see the change. So I'm ready to see the change. So see the change. What would it, if that change happened right now, what would be going on in your life? Live from the end to the beginning. Begin to speak and act as if it's already done. That's what the course I'm going to have that's coming up, starting in a week or two. It's going to be 8 weeks of manifesting. Now, those of you who have been contributing to this ministry at whatever measure you've been contributing, it's free. It's not going to cost you any money. It's going to cost you your time. Don't sign up if you're not going to be involved. It's really a transformative masterclass. Mastermind. That means you have to participate. The one reason we're not seeing the outcomes we desire to see is because we won't follow the process. The word says, though you got 10,000 instructors, you have not many fathers. When I look around, you click on YouTube, there's millions of instructors, many of which don't have any original ideas, many of which is espousing somebody else's stuff. But the word says, though you have 10,000 YouTube influencers, you have not many fathers. What is a father? Most of us don't know what a father is. A father is one who comes up close on you and can speak into you. That's what Oasis Spiritual Center is, a fathering ministry. Okay, what it means is it's not a maternal ministry, but it has the fathering ministry. Teaching, transforming those who want to be transformed. Wow, that's beautiful. So let me see here if I got anything else before we close, because I need to get somewhere this morning. You want to follow me this morning? I will be at the Center for Divine Love, south side of St. Louis. I will be facilitating that whole program this morning. I will not be speaking, but I'll be bringing value to it. The message this morning is the process of healing. Dr. Niana Tumpe will be speaking, so you can catch me in about an hour there. Center for Divine Love. They have a Facebook page. They'll be live out there. Awesome. So if this ministry has been a blessing to you, consider being a blessing to it. You can go to oasisspiritualcenter.com, go to the giving page, and you'll find a platform that you can give. If you're on YouTube, you can go to the top of the banner, and it'll say that there's a place where you can make a donation. Now, I appreciate every donation. There's a donation not too small or a donation too big. A donation is a donation. Operate in your faith. The measure in which you give is indicator of the measure of your belief and the measure that you will get a return on. If this ministry has had value, consider giving to this ministry. Well, that's all I have this morning. If somebody, before we close, anybody got a question, if anybody got a response, anyone has had a aha moment, I'd like to bring one or two of those in before we wrap up. If you're in the Zoom room, just go ahead and hit that feature that allows you to raise your hand, and I'll bring you right on over. Let me see if I got any hands raised. I don't see any hands. So I'm not going to badger you all this morning. Linda says, thank you. Appreciative of you and the Oasis Spiritual Living family. Yes. Great word. Good. Awesome. So I don't see any hands up. Let me take a trip over here to the YouTube channel to see if there's any feedback there. Thank you for your prayer. All right. Eagles Fire International. Thank you. What's the name again? Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living. Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living. I'll type that into the feed here. oasisspiritualcenter.com. You can go there and you can get everything you need to know. Awesome. That's all I have this morning. It's been a pleasure. I will see you all on tomorrow is Monday morning. We will have the Monday morning prayer at 8 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. since it's a holiday. We'll go at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Go to the website if you don't know more about that. And join us for our daily morning meditation. Normally taking place 6 a.m. to about 6:15 every morning, Monday through Friday. But tomorrow it will be 8 a.m. Awesome. That's all I have. And I'm going to close with the very song we started with. There was a beautiful song, and I want you to just listen to it. Drop off when you want to drop off. But this is Faith That Conquers.
I have the faith that sees the invisible, expects the incredible, receives the impossible. Faith that can conquer anything. Faith that uproots my problem. Faith to know God can solve them. Faith to vision